Oh, hey. Yeah, there we are. Sorry, the thing was hiccuping there a little bit. How's everybody doing tonight? All right. Hey, Suze, be careful there. All right. All right. Hey, how is everybody tonight? All of you who won prizes last week in the great Christmas games of 2020, I have them. If I haven't connected with you yet to give them to you, I have them. So just drop me a text or something, and I'll make arrangements to get them to you. Matt Dyer, if you're here yet, yours are in the mail, buddy. So just post office gets them to you. So hopefully by Easter you'll have them. Right. How is everybody doing? Somebody talk to me besides Susan making fun of my grouchy face. Somebody talk to me. How's everybody doing tonight? Anybody having a good day? I want to show you something cool I could do. Y'all see that? I could type in the chat. I got a new keyboard this week. Y'all see my new keyboard, which means now I can type and be on the internet at the same time. It's fantastic. So, all right. Well, let's give some shout outs here tonight. Wayne Street UMC, that would be this guy, was first tonight. Hey, Suze. Congratulations on being second. Hi, Scott and Jan. Glad to have you guys here tonight. I believe I have prizes in the bag for you. If I'm not mistaken. So, Dave and Amy Jessen, how you doing? Hi, Amy Hogshead. And Sue's making fun of my grouchy face. There I am typing. I need a good dog, not a sneaky cat. Let me be honest with you. I don't have either one. That was a stage prop that I was having a picture with there. I borrowed a cat for that picture. Somebody texted me and asked me if that was the cat that attacked me, and no, that was not the cat that attacked me. So, yeah. So, yep. No cats, no dogs. So, Trina Childs, how you doing, Trina? Good to have you here tonight. Dave, glad you liked the picture of not my cat. Hi, Doug and Margie. Glad you guys are doing well. Amy Hawks had Mexican food for dinner. Look what I had for dinner, Amy. That's right, Villanova pizza. We got some for youth group and had a bunch left over. So I now have a sample here that if you guys don't answer questions fast enough, I'm going to eat some here while I'm on the air. So awesome. Hi, Beth Reedy. Glad to have you tonight. Daryl Louth, how you doing, buddy? Glad to have you out tonight, too. I've had kind of a strange night. Parker and Jess and I were up doing youth group earlier, and then I had to leave. I had a funeral at 7 o'clock, which is why I have this goofy thing on. So I had a funeral at 7 o'clock, and so I ran down and did that. And I ran back here as they were kind of finishing up, and now I'm here for a live stream. So everything's good. I normally have a big – if you ever watch me when I'm doing this, I'm usually looking up like that. I have a big clock on the wall. Unfortunately, I came in Monday morning – and the clock was wrong, but it was weird. It turns out this clock, and it was it was like this big around. It was a huge clock. The clock, if you ever, any of you have a clock with a face on it, ever done this? The hour hand broke. So the hour hand was always pointed down. No matter how I told the clock, it was always pointed down. So something happened, and one of the gears must have broke in the hour hand, and it was always 6 something. So I took it down to Diane, and I don't think we can fix it. So I'm normally up there looking to time it out. So I hit 9 o'clock, and I don't have my clock anymore. So I'm going to be watching this clock here on my screen, which is not nearly as big. So anyways, I'll probably still look up at it out of habit, but it's not there. So no clock for me. So, hey, I want to know, we're going to get a little interactive here to start off tonight before we get to chapter 13. I want to know, what'd y'all get for Christmas? Val McAllister, what did you get for Christmas? I know with all your kids and everything, somebody got you something good. I want to know what everybody got for Christmas. All right, while you're typing that, I'm going to show you what I got for Christmas. That's right. You got a massage certificate, Dave? I'm jealous. Let's see. We got money for Christmas. That money's always good. Trina got Jeep parts for the big blue monster. All right, that's cool. What else you guys get for Christmas? Anybody else get anything for Christmas? There are only 3 people who've been good in the chat tonight. Is that what I'm supposed to take from this? Only 3 of you? Oh, weighted blanket, Scott. I have one of those. You are going to love it. Love it. Mine's a 20 pounder. And oh my gosh, I love mine. Love it. I think makes me sleep like a log. I'm telling you, Scott. So you enjoy that weighted blanket. I love mine. Heated chair massage and heated blanket. Awesome. I'm noticing a trend there, Val. Are you having a problem staying warm? Probably not anymore. Sue's got an awesome wireless vacuum. Man, I bet somebody really thoughtful got you that wireless vacuum, Suze. I bet somebody really thoughtful and incredibly handsome bought that for you. That's great. Beth says, yeah, Jeep parts. My son is in the process of putting a lift. A lift to do what? A lift. Beth, a lift like to lift you in, or a lift as in like lifting it up off the ground so it like rides really high? I'm not a car person. I don't know what a lift does. So Beth, tell me what a lift does. Marge got a ukulele. I find it not surprising in any way, shape, or form. Anyone else got a ukulele, I would think it was weird. Marge gets a ukulele, and my reaction is, you didn't already have one? Yeah, ukulele. All right, that's great. We had a girl in the youth group who plays the ukulele. She brings it in and plays it sometimes. That's pretty cool. Seth got me a Shark vacuum cleaner. I bet he got that from Menards, didn't he? Because he works there. All right, yeah, that's good. All right, Scott Moran Janser, I bet she does. Weighted blankets are fantastic. I absolutely love mine. In fact, I got mine last Christmas, and I can't use it during the summertime. It's too hot, but during the wintertime, ooh, yeah, that's good living right there. Lifting my Jeep higher is awesome. That's fantastic. That's really cool. 2-inch lift for my 05 Wrangler. That's Beth. I'm impressed. Maybe I'll have to get a lift kit on the Beetle. I can lift it up 2 inches. Of course, if I lifted it up 2 inches, it would probably look like an actual Beetle flying through the air. So watch out. Hi, Cheryl Miller. Cheryl, we're sharing what we got for Christmas. And I want to show y'all what I got for Christmas. I got my friend Wilson right there. And I got him from my friend Jack Miller. And so didn't think I forgot about that. He's still here. And he will be weighing in on some kind of conversation we're going to have. So Cheryl, Jack, glad you guys are here. Hi, Cheryl Har. Cheryl just got added to the email or the text message about 2 days ago. So Cheryl, glad to have you. And it's fine. You haven't missed anything yet. We're just kind of shooting the breeze here a little bit. And Cheryl got barn boots for Christmas. I find that to not in any way be surprising. Any of you have ever been out to the Har residence, you know that barn boots are probably required fare out there. So that's very cool. Amy Hogshead got a new washer. We're glad to hear that. Making things nice and clean. Trina says, "Bring the Beetle over, and my boys will set you up." Apparently, literally set me up. Get the Beetle up and flying. That's great. So, all right, cool. All right. Anybody else get anything for Christmas that's cool they want to share? Here's what I got for Christmas. I got me a big monster truck. And just so you know, it's a Volkswagen van. See that Volkswagen on the front there? Look at that monster. So I've been running over stuff on my desk in here. So that's right. So hey Trina, can your boys hook me up to make the Beetle like this? Because that would be awesome. All of Seth's gifts he got from Menards. This is my not surprised face. Cheryl, Jack got me a new tablet. Now I can see you. Hello, Cheryl. I'm sorry that you bought a new tablet, and the best thing you can put on it is my face. So I'm sorry about that. No problem. I have to get some new tires. We're gonna jack the Beetle up that high. So, all right. Well, cool. All right. Well, good. Well, let's see. Should we get to some content here tonight, or can I ask another question? I love the chapter for tonight for any of you who read it. I thought it was actually pretty good. My thing is about dead, so I got to plug it in. But uh-oh. That's me being a super professional right there, folks. I had to sneeze. So, all right. The wind and the waves obey him. Remember, we're in the section of the thing on miracle working. We talked briefly about the introduction to this section last week about how miracle working is always thank you, Beth, is always kind of a difficult thing because they don't always happen. And I guess if it was something that we could count on, miracles would not be. I guess they wouldn't be miracles if we could count on them or automatically expected them to happen. I guess it wouldn't be quite the experience when a miracle does come through. So that's kind of not their nature. Yeah, even though, and we all understand that. I mean, we know miracles don't happen every time. That's why we call them miracles, because they're special. So I completely get that, and I know every one of you gets that. Problem is, though, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, and I know you're going to agree with this, is that we all want to be the one get the miracle. I mean, whenever something's going wrong or something ain't what it's supposed to be, or there's a risk or a danger or a threat or something, we all want to be the one to get the miracle. That's what we all want to have. And that ain't how it works. I'm sorry to say. And I know from experience. So the miracle doesn't always take place and doesn't always pan out. And that's what makes it hard. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about with here tonight is, what happens in the midst of the storm. And this is the story of Jesus when the disciples. This is one of those stories that I just always. I don't know. There's a detail in it that's very strange. Why would the fishermen be so terrified half to death that they're going to drown in this storm? I mean, seasoned fishermen who have been, probably out on the water since they could walk, had years and years of experience. The storm was so bad that they thought they weren't going to make it, and they would be the ones to know because they'd seen bad storms in their lives. And Jesus, the carpenter, slept through it. Now, go ahead and tell me, well, Jesus is God. Okay, fine, whatever. But still, that's a. All right, it wasn't that Jesus wasn't scared or wasn't concerned. He was sleeping with water. I mean, water had to be pouring up over the side of the boat. So Jesus getting drenched, but apparently the guy was really tired and was just taking a snooze there with, the cataclysmic storm going on. So exactly how that works, I don't know. Maybe Jesus had narcolepsy. I've never heard that argued before, but somehow he managed to go to sleep in the middle of this storm. And again, even if he wasn't scared, just the noise and the power of the storm alone, you think would be enough to keep him awake, but apparently not. And Max addresses this, and we're going to get to that conversation here in a minute, but it's a very strange reaction. I mean, I've been a part of maybe he had a weighted blanket. I bet any blanket he had was pretty weighted, Matt, in that he was probably waterlogged. So, yes, he probably did have a weighted blanket. But he was, he was there. And, I mean, he was way beyond not concerned because I could imagine even being in a situation where, maybe I wasn't scared, but somebody else was. That would make it hard to sleep. I mean, and earlier in my life when I had foster kids staying in my house and stuff, if they were having a problem or something was going on, even though I was like, I'm not exactly scared of what you're scared of, but I still wasn't asleep because those kids were scared of the dark or scared of whatever. And, so even though I was obviously not concerned, I knew my house was safe. They didn't feel that way. And it made it hard for me to sleep knowing that they were upset. So, it's a very strange thing that Jesus was sleeping and the disciples were, planning each other's funerals while this was going on. But we're going to talk about that when we get going here. So any of you who have the book, and if you don't worry about it, but I'm on page 103 for chapter 13. And so Jesus and the disciples were in a boat crossing a sea of Galilee. A storm came up suddenly, and what was placid became violent. What was placid became violent. I'm just going to ask right out the bat here. Jump in the comments and tell me, or maybe provide an example. When you saw something that was placid become violent, something that was calm become not calm, in a moment. Somebody give me an example of, a moment when something was calm, everything was going fine, and suddenly the whole thing came apart. Can you think of an example? In fact, I think we saw a national example on Christmas Day of something exactly like this. An example of something that was calm, cool, placid, and just in one moment went from that to just absolutely just awful. Anybody think of anything? I know I'm waiting out the delay here. That's all right. An avalanche would be one. Usually, without warning, you can have a mudslide or a snow melting or something like that can come down. We saw that in Guatemala last year about mudslides and things falling apart. Okay, Trina says I had a resident in a nursing home. Sweetest little grandma's turned around and bit me. Yeah, I've been bit a few times too, so I know about that. And you're just like, excuse me, what? I mean, even the cat from a couple weeks ago, totally nice until he wasn't. So I'm also thinking about the bombing in Nashville, Christmas morning. Calm, 6:30 in the morning, not much happening, and then all of a sudden, there was a recording played, and then there was a whole city block that was no longer there, and just blown off the face of the earth. And I think about that would have been a really amazing turnaround. Young horse you're riding in your youth, perfectly nice, and either kicked you off or something. Yeah, I could see a horse turning on you, and a powerful animal like that would be frightening. And that's kind of where these guys were. If it had the disciples, had the weather app on their phone and saw that there was a storm coming, they'd be like, why don't we just hang out here on the shore till morning? They would never have advocated leaving had they known what was coming, but yeah, Val. Yep, I remember, and yeah, just a moment when everything was fine, and it suddenly wasn't fine, and so we've all been there in those kind of challenging moments where, like I said, everything was fine and everything wasn't fine. That's where the disciples were. Had they known that this storm was coming, had they known that that's what they were about to run into, they'd have been like, yeah, we'll just stay here. And so I'm not saying that every single time this happens, but it could very well be that God's like, well. There's going to be a lesson to learn in this storm. There's going to be something to come out of this. There's something on the other side that I want for you. So I'm going to not tell you about this thing that you would probably run from if you knew it was coming. But because, if that fear keeps you from taking the journey, from trying to cross the Sea of Galilee, then you're not going to get to that thing that God wants you to have. You're not going to have that experience that God wants you to have. You're not going to have that growth and that, whatever. Now, if you're like, well, God, if you'd asked me, I'd have gave you the big old negative on that one and said, I pass. And God's like, yeah, I know that's why I didn't ask. Because how many times, any of you parents out there, I know I got a few parents out there, your kids, you're going to go somewhere or do something, your kids are not going to want to do it. So you're not going to tell them what's going to happen. You just be like, get in the car. And then when the kids get there, like, man, if you told us we were going to do this, we would have said no. That's right. That's why I didn't tell you. I mean, come on, parents. You all know you do that. So so that's kind of how that goes, where, you don't want to tell people all the bad stuff that's going to happen, because if you knew, it might talk you out of doing it, when the whole point of the experience is a blessing that might come later, but not right away. And I think that, and clearly that's what Jesus knew about the disciples. They were about to witness something amazing. I think it'd be pretty amazing for Jesus to be like, knock it off and the storm stops. I think that would qualify as a pretty amazing thing to witness. And but the only way that's going to matter, or the only way that's going to become necessary is if the disciples shove off from the land. They stay on the shore, this doesn't happen, or at least it wouldn't have the impact it had here. And Jesus knew that, so that's why he's like, "Well, I'm not gonna share that. I'm not gonna share that part. We're just gonna get you guys out there, and then I'm gonna show you something really cool." And so that's what it is. Okay. Now, I've always kind of chuckled about the response of the disciples when they wake Jesus up. It wasn't, save us. It wasn't, here's a bucket, start bailing. It wasn't, anything like that. They woke him up and said, "Don't you care?" I mean, if we die, just know if this boat goes down, pal, you're the one standing on it. They hadn't seen the walking on water thing yet. Maybe they had. They'd been more scared. I don't know, but they hadn't witnessed that yet. So they're basically saying, "Don't you care?" Have you ever said that one to God? Don't you care? I mean, don't you know what's going on here? Anyone ever said that one to God? That's a simple yes, no question. Anybody ever said that one to God? Are you willing to say that in the chat here tonight? That there was a time when you looked at God and said, "Don't you care about this? Don't you care about me? Aren't you concerned in any way about what we're experiencing, what's coming down? Don't you care?" Has anybody ever said that? Anybody ever had that experience? Or we're wondering if God just suddenly quit caring? Yeah, why me moment. That's right, Suze. Yeah, Scott and Val. Yeah. We've all been there. I mean, like I said, just barely an hour ago, I was standing at a funeral service, and there with a family of a man who passed away, and that could be kind of a bummer. I mean, it is a bummer for the family. They were very, very sad. This man, he had some health problems, but he passed away somewhat suddenly. And so I'm sure that that family is probably right now asking, why us? Now, one of the parallels that Max draws here. Okay. Yep. Dave and Amy. Yep. Cheryl. Yep. One of the things that Max Zucato, one of the parallels that Max draws here is sometimes, again, going back to I left out the gruesome parts of this when you're talking to your kids and stuff like that, where he gives a couple of examples. I'm going to read him right out of the book because he writes them so well. I'm going to read him to you, and then we're going to talk about it. So he says, if you're a parent of a teenager, you've been asked similar questions. You refused to mortgage the house so your daughter could buy the latest style tennis shoes. She asked, "Don't you care if I look out of date?" When you insisted your son skip the weekend game and attend his grandparents' golden anniversary, he asked, "Don't you care if I have a social life?" When you limited the ear piercing to one hole per lobe, the accusation came thinly veiled as a question, "Don't you care if I fit in?" Now, Max is going to argue in this passage that, of course, parents care. They just see things from a different perspective. And I'm not saying that he's wrong, but I can remember, again, when I had foster kids and I had some of these questions or conversations where I was like, what are we talking about here? I'm going to say that I didn't care. I didn't care that you look out of date. I didn't care that you don't have a social life. I didn't care if you fit in. I honestly had zero. In fact, I can't even say zero. I had literally less than zero amount of care if any of those things happened. I could not have cared less. It never entered my field of thought. Any decision I made was never based upon that. Never worried. I was never concerned. My failures as a parent have been well documented, so there we are. But that never bothered me because my job was to keep those kids safe. And I feel sometimes like that's God, when I say, "Don't you care that this bothers me?" I don't think God does. Now, I'm not saying that God is some kind of mean whatever who just, tortures people. I'm not saying that. But I don't know that our feelings, this is going to sound harsh. I don't know a different way to say it, though. I don't know that our feelings matter that much to God, really. It's like when your child cries because you won't let him stick scissors in the electric socket. You don't care. And scream your head off. I'm not going to change my mind on this one. And there's absolutely no way I'm going to allow you to do that. And I'm afraid that sometimes I'll just speak for myself. This guy here is like, God, why won't you let me use these scissors and stick them in the socket? Why won't you let me do that? I don't understand. And God's like, well, I don't care that you're bothered by this. I don't care that you're mad. I don't care that you're upset, because I know what happens if I let you do this. And I don't want that for you. I know how bad you want it. I understand. I mean, sticking scissors in an electric socket looks like all kinds of fun, but I'm still not going to let you do it. And I don't care how angry you are about it. I'm never changing my mind. I feel like that's kind of where, and we're going to get to this a little more when we get a little farther into the discussion. But I don't know that God gets all that upset when we're upset about things. I think about myself early in my career. Man, people in the church would get mad at me about all kind of stuff. I mean, just the craziest stuff. People get mad at me about stuff that I don't even know about. I mean, I didn't even know it happened or know anything about it, and I'm getting blamed for things. In fact, I got a text message just a couple days ago that there's a rumor going around Wayne Street that I'm trying to cancel the early service. My response was, first I'd heard of it. I don't know where these things come from. And people were all bent out of shape about things. And I'm like, look, I don't know what to tell you. All I can tell you is I have no intention whatsoever. I hadn't even considered it, nor have even thought of that. So, I don't know where these things come from. And people get all just hot under the collar about these things. And early in my career, I used to get really upset about that. Now, I actually have a collection of hate mail at my house. I keep it and I read it. I just keep it and read it because it makes me laugh now that people get so bent out of shape. Doing things like this YouTube thing, man, trolls will come along and stuff, and I welcome that. I got in an argument with a troll on the internet yesterday. He was writing stuff on my stuff, and the internet makes people really brave. Well, buddy, I went right back at him, and we had a discussion, and it actually turned out he and I were not that far apart. He just felt, he was just talking and fine. I was like, you want to talk? Fine, we'll talk. And we actually came around to realize he realized that he and I were not that far apart on what he was trying to get on my case about. So, anymore, that doesn't bother me. I know that comes with maturity and things like that. And I think if we're going to measure Tim's maturity versus God's maturity, I mean, I'm like not even registering on the scale, and he's all the way off the other end. So I'm pretty sure that if we want to get mad at God about things, I don't know that he gets all that upset about that. Yeah, Scott, I agree. Job was to be dad, not best buddies and pals. That's true, Val. I agree. Because you're not doing your kids any favor by being their friends. If you were willing to take somebody who failed as a parent to learn that lesson, yeah, definitely believe me on that one. If anyone wants to know what happened when you put two keys in an outlet, Dennis's brother's knees caught on fire? His knees? Is that right, Trent, or was that a typo? His knees caught on fire? Because that sounds awful. Okay, and just as a disclaimer, in case we all need to testify to this in court, I want everyone to hear me say this. Do not stick scissors in an electric socket ever. Okay? I use that as an example. It was a silly example. So I don't want anybody calling me, and I don't want Val McAllister mad because Seth overheard this and he stuck scissors in an electric socket. That's on you. I'm telling you not to do it. So, yes, he was on his knees when he did it. Oh, my heavens. That sounds exactly awful. So please, for the love of God, do not put scissors in an electric socket. That's the world we live in. I have to say that. So, all right. So one of the things that Max goes on to, Seth is at work. Well, hopefully Menards has rules about scissors and electric sockets. So one of the things that we need to keep in mind here is that, and I think this discussion we just had will lead into this next one. Jesus has seen all this stuff before. In fact, he's seen far worse than than the storm that they were going through. So where the disciples were freaking out and melting down and just having a near panic attack, Jesus is like, man, I've seen all this before, and I'm not real concerned about it. And again, any of you who have ever been responsible for a child for any length of time, more than 1.5 minutes, has seen a child get upset over something where you're like, no, I'm not feeling this. I've had a lot of people down through the years in churches and at funerals and at different times, and during challenges in their own life or whatever, get very upset about things, and I look at it and go, yeah, I've seen this before, and I'm not terribly concerned about this. And maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe I should worry about more stuff. I'm not a worrier. I did enough of that when I was younger. Now I'm kind of over it. So I'm not a big worrier. I don't sweat details and things like that. Part of that may be because I enjoy shooting from the hip, and part of that may be because I'm irresponsible. I don't know, but I'm just saying that details are not my strong suit, and I'm a big picture guy. And as long as the big picture is near what it should be, I don't worry about that. And I'm pretty sure that's where Jesus was. He wasn't real upset by the storm because he's seen it all before. Much more than I have, I can tell you that. Don't sweat the small stuff, Trent. It's exactly right. And Jesus was not sweating the storm because, contrary to what the disciples thought, this was small stuff. And so they weren't getting real excited about it. And that's kind of why Jesus was, so calm. He was, taking a snooze while everybody else is freaking out. Now he goes on to make this analogy that I had never thought of before, but once I read it, made perfect sense to me. He said, "How many of us here tonight in this chat have fallen asleep in front of the TV?" I'm willing to wager that none of us have not done that. That's a double negative. Sorry about that. All of us have fallen asleep in front of the TV. You flip on the TV and bam, we're out. Yeah, Trina has. That's like the best thing to do in front of the TV because most of what's on TV anymore is garbage anyway. So you're taking a nap in front of the TV. We've all done that. However, if you would have taken that TV and put it in a house of somebody who'd never had a TV before, who'd never seen a TV, you can be for darn sure they ain't gonna go to sleep. I can remember years ago, I don't remember the name. It was a TV show where cowboys traveled through time. So you got these cowboys from the Wild West, and they were transferred into modern times. It was like an 80s TV show. And I can remember they got into this place where there was a TV that had a cowboy show on. And in the cowboy show, in every cowboy show, there was a gunfight. And all the cowboys were like pulling their guns and pointing them at that TV, thinking they're going to shoot these guys until they figured out that there were no bullets coming out of the TV. But at first, they were a little upset about the bullets being because they'd never seen a TV before because they were from the 1800s. So we, think about all the disasters you've watched on a TV. All the crazy things that you have seen go on a TV. Just 2 nights ago, Susan and I were watching V for Vendetta. If you've ever seen that show before, there's a bombing and fighting and all this stuff in that movie. And I wasn't at any point, he's like throwing knives at people and stuff, and they're shooting guns and whatever. And at no point did I think, oh man, we're going to get killed sitting here. No, I'm sitting there, I'm lounging out, whatever. I wasn't afraid of that because I knew that it was on TV. It wasn't real. But I tell you, had I never seen that before, and I walk in and see some guy in a mask throwing knives at people, and I would be like, I don't know what the heck's going on here, but I'm throwing something back, right? And if you'd never seen a TV before, that's how it would work. It would work exactly like that. So. Yeah. Oh, Darvin was the little boy from Guatemala, right, Trina? I think I remember he stayed with you guys. And I bet if he'd never seen a TV before, I bet he thought that was a big deal. I'm sorry to say, probably did learn a lot of English from that TV to see all those things because that was a new experience for him. And yeah, you can imagine if you didn't know what a TV was or that, true story. I had a family in one of my previous churches. I probably told I don't know how many people I've told these stories to, but they're funny, so I like them. But I can remember because tornadoes are a North American phenomenon. We don't the other tornadoes don't happen any place else in the world except for the middle of the United States. And the reason for that is because the United States has the Appalachian Mountains and the Rocky Mountains, and then that flat plain in the middle. So the cold air coming down from Canada meets the warm air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, and that's what causes tornadoes. So the tornadoes are that's the only place you see them is North America, because it's the only place you have the right kind of geographical and weather phenomenon that would create a tornado. So whenever they people in other countries, many of them have this idea that, that's all we ever do here is like, you go outside and you get blown away by a tornado. They think they're everywhere. And I can remember I had an exchange student come in. The exchange student wanted to, because he thought tornadoes were everywhere. So he's like, well, what's a tornado like? Well, they took the kid out and showed him Twister. And I can remember saying, are we sure that showing him Twister is a good idea? Are we sure that's no? Yeah, he can see tornadoes and stuff. And I'm like, he's like 8. I don't know if we should show him that movie. Well, then every time there was a cloud in the sky, the poor kid was freaking out the whole time he was here because he thought that the movie Twister was going to happen and he was going to die. So again, it's all about perspective. I understand tornadoes. Yeah, it's something to worry about, but and I'm not saying they never happen. We in this area know that they do, but we also know that they're relatively rare, thank the Lord. But if you didn't, that would be a pretty scary thing to be hanging over your head. I don't mean to laugh. It was kind of mean, but it was kind of funny too. So, okay. So, all right. So the big storm's coming up, and they're like, Jesus, don't you care? And he's like, what the heck you guys waking me up for now? He tells the storm to knock it off, and it does. And now they're like, did y'all just see that? Jesus told a storm to calm down. Now, look, I'll admit I've been through a number of storms in my life. So I pay attention to them, but I'm not necessarily scared of them. However, if I was at my house and one of y'all came over and I said, wow, look at that storm that's coming. You're like, what storm? Storm go away. And the storm goes away. I'm going to be impressed by that. Because storms don't generally listen to instructions. And this storm clearly did. Now, and remember, this is just like the tip of the iceberg as to what these disciples are going to see throughout the course of Jesus's ministry. And so they experience this, dispersing of the storm. And now they're like, my goodness gracious, what have we gotten into? So I ask you now, let's get a little interactive here for a few minutes. Tell me, what did the disciples take away from this? All right, what did they take away from this experience of seeing Jesus calm the storm? And let me run the numbers for you here. They shove off from the land and they're out on the water, so they've left the safety of the land. The storm blows up to the point that they think they're going to die. It's that bad. These seasoned fishermen think that they've come to the end of the line. Jesus is taking a snooze while this is going on. Disciples freak out and be like, don't you think you ought to do something here because we're all scared? So Jesus does something. He tells the storm to stop, and it does. And then he basically, it doesn't say this, but it gives the appearance that he tells it to knock it off, and he rolls back over and goes back to sleep. And the disciples are all like, did y'all just see that? So that's my question. At this point now, Jesus, it's not like he's teaching an object lesson here. It's not like he's doing some kind of, obviously he's doing a sign, but it's not like he's doing a miracle like when he heals somebody. He basically just ordered a storm to go away, and it did. Anybody want to tell me? What did the disciples take from this? What do you think they took from this? What would you have taken from this? To witness something, just completely off the wall. I don't know what else to say. Something completely off the wall. What would you take from this? All right, they're going to wonder who this man is, Dave. I certainly agree with that. They're going to have some questions about, is he a meteorologist? No, they kind of read the weather, not order it around. So, yeah, they're going to have some questions about Jesus's identity and exactly what kind of forecasting school he went to or whatever. What else might they take from this? Okay, Trina, they're going to identify that as long as they're with Jesus, they're going to be okay. That's true. I mean, if the storm is nothing to him, then what would be a threat to him? That's a good one. Anybody else got one? What else would they take away from this experience? Or what would you? I mean, if you'd been standing on that boat and you went from thinking you're going to die to witnessing somebody stopping this thing that you thought was a threat, what would you think? What would you take away from that? What would you tell somebody, if you're out on the street, after you get to the other side and you're walking along going, I got to tell you what I just saw. What do you say? Chat's running a little slow tonight. Sue says they may have felt bad since Jesus said they needed to believe. Okay, so they might have felt a little scolded. I hadn't thought of that yet, but you're absolutely right. Might have felt that they got maybe put in their place. I've always imagined that Jesus was frustrated by this. I can't even take a nap without you guys freaking out about something, and maybe that's what they felt. Like, the boat going down wouldn't have been good for you either, pal. So, I mean, who knows? Okay. Well, let's move on to the next thing here. Flipping over to page 105, if you're following along with me, the paragraph that starts with Peter never would have made this request on the calm sea. Now, Max jumps to a different rendition of the storm. This one, Jesus was not with them, so obviously he wasn't sleeping like he was in the first version. And Mark's, I think it's Mark. Is it Mark? Mark. Yes, Mark. Anyways, in this, Matthew, I'm sorry, this is Matthew's version. In Matthew's version, Jesus is now walking on the water, which doesn't appear in Mark's version, which is fine. The eyewitness accounts are different, or it may have been a whole different time. Who knows? But so they go on ahead, and they're out there on the water, and Jesus is not with them, and the storm is really bad, and they look out, and when they thought it was at its worst, they saw somebody walking on the water toward them. I cannot think of any scenario where that makes me feel better. I could think of no scenario where I'm like, hey, look, we're saved. Somebody's walking on the water. There's no scenario where that gives me any comfort whatsoever. So they think they're seeing a ghost. So they thought it was so bad. But now they realize there's a ghost coming. I mean, again, that I can't think of a scenario where that makes me feel better. Then they find out it's Jesus. Jesus calls out to them, and they're like, "Oh, cool, it's Jesus." I still don't know if I feel comfortable. And then y'all know what happens next. Peter says, "Well, if it is you, ask me to join you. Invite me out." And Jesus is like, "All right, come on out." And I mean, look, say what you want about Peter. I mean, yes, he is impulsive. Yes, he is a blockhead, and yes, he is, Mr. Impulsive all the time. But let's give Peter some props. He got out of the boat. I'm not 100% sure I'm in on that, okay? Unless I've got some massive arm floaties or a life jacket, and I'm not even sure then I'm into it. But he got out of the boat. And again, every movie version of this I've ever seen, and again, I understand because they couldn't film it correctly. It's got a little bit of waves on the water. I'm sorry, they're not freaking out thinking they're on the die just from little waves on the water. This is a storm. So Jesus is climbing up one side of the wave and surfing down the other side or whatever. Maybe it was surfing Jesus coming out there. I don't know. But so Jesus gets out there and says, Peter, come on out. So Peter gets out and starts walking. And he starts walking. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But it says on page 105, Peter never would have made this request on a calm sea. So if it would have been a calm sea and not a stormy sea, I think I agree with Max. I don't know if Peter would have ever, I don't know if challenge is the right word, but I think you know what I'm getting to. He never would have said, Jesus, invite me out. It would have been like, guys, look at this cool thing that's happening. Jesus walking on the water, and now he's moonwalking, and now he's doing a cartwheel. Look at that, something else. I think if the sea would have been calm, I think that's what the response would have been. But because it was a stormy sea, and Jesus wasn't able to just walk on it, but there was other things going on, like the fact they thought their boat was about to capsize and they all were going to drown. Peter said, "We don't have time to wait for this to work itself out." And so I agree with Max. I think it would have just been a cool trick without the storm. I think it's the storm that makes the walking on the water thing have its power, because again, Peter would never have asked to be invited out onto a calm sea. I think they all would have been just like, "Hey, it's Jesus, and this is super cool." You know, they'd have been taking their Instagram selfies with Jesus walking in the background and posting that up, and they just would have been cool with that. But because the stormy sea, and they had a real threat going on, and the threat was getting worse because they thought a ghost was there. That's when Peter says, "I'm going to challenge this." And it would have, on a calm sea, it's an amazing trick. On a stormy sea, it's life and death, and that does change things. And again, that's another reason why, whether, whatever version you're looking at, whether it be Jesus asleep in the boat when they get out there, or they leave Jesus and Jesus comes walking along, catching up to him, whichever version of that you want to look at, or whichever time Jesus was out there with the storm that you want to look at, either way, it was about not telling them what was going to happen, because it was in the middle of the storm that something amazing was going to get revealed. Either it was going to be Jesus calming the storm by telling it to knock it off, or Jesus walking on the water and having Peter, walk halfway out to join him. I think either one of those qualifies as a pretty amazing sign, but they didn't see either of those signs until there was a storm. And sometimes I think the storm is a way to bring our inhibitions down, so that we can be, not necessarily challenged, even though that could be part of it, but also be moved out of our comfort zone. And Jan says, "We're in a pandemic." We're all painfully aware of that, I know. But being in the water frightens me. I want to be brave enough to walk on the water. Yep. I don't know that it's walking on the water or sinking in the water is the thing. I think the risk here is getting out of the boat, sink or swim. That's where the decision was made. And again, props to Peter. There's plenty of us who would be like, there were 12 disciples in the boat. Only one of them got out. And the rest of them were all like, "Yeah, Peter, go see how this works out, and then we'll decide what we're going to do," which is pretty pretty level-headed thing to decide, I guess. But Peter was the one who issued the challenge. He did get out of the boat. I mean, that's where the real faith is. Whether he sank or whether he walked or swam or whatever, the faith step was the first one out of the boat, and that's an amazing thing to get over. All right, we only got about 10 minutes left here. Flip over to 107. Kind of addressing Jan's observation here. Max goes on to talk about how we don't get to choose storms. We don't get to choose storms, because I'll tell you right now, but I'm not going to accuse none of you of this, but I'll accuse this guy of it. If I got the chance to, if Jesus gave me a questionnaire, says, "Here's your weekly itinerary, check the things that you want," and I'm looking down there and I see storm, no check marks going in that box. I'll tell you that right now. So we would never choose the storm. Therefore, God doesn't let us choose some of them. We have to weather them. However, much like Peter, once he climbed over the edge of the boat, he did get to choose where he looked. He did get to choose what he set his eyes upon. And by setting his eyes upon Jesus, things were going pretty well. He actually made it a couple steps. Again, props to Peter. But once he started looking at the wind and the waves, and the storm, things literally started going south. And that's where he ran into problems. And I think that's the challenge for us. And Jan, I think to address what you said just a moment ago, Jesus asks us to keep our eyes on him, not to get distracted by the storm. And look, me sitting here in this comfortable climate-controlled office where I'm sitting right now, and you see the curtain behind me, and I got my man Wilson right there, and I got my Batman sign right there. I got all this stuff in here. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable in here. So it's easy for me to say, everything's good. But to be in the middle of the storm and be able to weather those kind of things, that's a whole different story. And that's a difficult place to be. Trina says, did you see The Shack where he lives on the water with Jesus? Beautiful movie. I'm going to have to be honest. I never saw the movie. I did read the book. I did not see the movie. And I got to tell you, where I read the book, I took that book with me when I went to Guatemala. Oh my gosh, 15 years ago. I was down there training firefighters and training them how to fight fires in their village. I took The Shack with me, and I read it in a hammock on this kind of pier overlooking the water. And where I was beautiful. I'll tell you that right now. One of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life, hands down, bar none. But we were down there training firefighters, and it was a beautiful thing. And help them save their village from fire, because with their grass huts, once one catches on fire, the whole village burns out. And we were teaching them how to stop that from happening. Trina says he had to keep his eyes on Jesus. Again, that's sort of the advice of the storm here. The storm is there as a distraction. Let me tell you something. Satan throws these things your way. Let's not even pretend like that's not what happened. That's not what's happening. Anything he can do to get you to look over here instead of at Jesus. And because once he gets you to look over there, that's when you start sinking. I don't need to explain to y'all that's not what you want. Because when we get out of the boat, and we take that faith step, and the distraction starts, the first thing that goes out of our head is the fact that what I really want to do here is not sink. But if I'm distracted by something other than Jesus, I have been distracted by something that absolutely will allow me to sink like a stone, clear to the bottom. And that's what that distraction is. No matter how dangerous it looks, it's not more dangerous. It's not stronger than the one we have our eyes upon. Again, that doesn't make it easier. Sometimes you'll have people say this, oh, Jesus is great. And if you got Jesus, you should be fine. That ain't how it works. And we all know it. But at the same time, it is a faith statement to say that I'm going to weather this storm because I got my eyes on the one who is bigger than the storm. And I think that's where Peter, again, props to Peter. He did get out of the boat. That's more than almost 100% of everyone else. He got out of the boat and he did take a couple steps. So look, in the history of our world, there are two people who walked on water. And the second one is Peter. So, you got to give the guy credit for that. But that's a pretty amazing thing to do. But, yeah, so there he is. All right, let me turn the page here. All right, he goes on to this time that he had a little heart trouble, Max is talking about. And he was sitting in the doctor's office, and he was, obviously concerned as anybody would be at that point. And he says he sat there in the doctor's office waiting for the doctor to come and talk to him. He was looking around the room in the doctor's office, and he saw the doctor's diplomas and certificates and certifications and all these things. And it made him start to feel better. Again, as it would for anybody. He's saying, I'm in good hands. Okay. I may have a little trouble here and I may need some help with my heart, but I feel confident in this doctor and I'm feeling good. So he says, while he's sitting there in the doctor's office and starting to calm himself a little bit, saying, God's brought me to a good place. I'm feeling good about this doctor. There's a little knock on the door and there's a nurse. And the nurse said, hey, the doctor's running a little behind. He's held up with the patient. He'll be here shortly, but he wants you to read this information before he comes in. So he says this so well. He says, okay, so I open up this file folder he gave me, and I start seeing words like atrial fibrillation, arrhythmia, embolic stroke, and blood clot. All of a sudden, I start sinking. All of a sudden, the doctor's diplomas on the walls don't hold my attention as well as atrial fibrillation, because I don't even know what that is, but that sounds awful. That's what Max says. I don't know what atrial fibrillation is, but I know it has something to do with your heart, and it sounds awful. So Max now, once he got his eyes off the diplomas and the qualifications of the physician, and started putting it on the risk that he knew he was facing, suddenly his comfort level was not near where it was. And sometimes storms can do that. You get your eyes turned away from the one who could help you and put on the problem, the issue, whatever. We start to sink, literally sometimes. And that can be a real problem. So, all right, I got 5 minutes left, and I want to do a little New Year's talking with you here. Let me just say that this was a great last chapter of the year. And obviously, we're going to continue with the book into next year. But the fact that New Year's Eve is tomorrow night, this was a great chapter to end on. Because as you're making your New Year's resolutions, which I hope y'all are, I hope that you'll make some taking into consideration the importance of keeping your eyes upon Jesus. Because, look, even this guy needs to be reminded of that from time to time. Yes, I do this professionally, and yes, you're right. But that don't mean that I don't have all the same frailties and concerns that you all have. So we all need to, make some Jesus resolutions. And I hope that you are. I'm going to take the last 2.5 minutes we have here to talk a little about that. Any of you who are in church on Sunday, and if you weren't, if you want to go back and hear the sermon from last week, listen to the either service. It's the same sermon from last Sunday. We talked about making the Cleopas resolution. Now, for all you Bible scholars out there, you know that Cleopas, it was one of the two travelers on the road to Emmaus after Jesus was crucified, and they encountered Jesus on the road to Emmaus. Didn't realize it was him until long into the journey. Jesus breaks the bread, and they're like, "Hey, aren't you Jesus?" And then he disappears, and you can go read the story in Luke 24. And I talked about how important it was for Cleopas to have the unnamed companion. Now, that could have been his wife. It could have been his friend. We don't know who he was traveling with, which is interesting. But we do know that those two guys experienced everything in Luke 24 together. They were in Jerusalem together. They saw Jesus die and thought it was over together. They traveled back to Emmaus together. They sat down to a meal together. These two people, whoever they were together. They were traveling the Emmaus road together. And we talked about Sunday how important it was to have people to do life with. And I challenge you all, and I'm going to say it again here because I know not all of you were in church Sunday. I challenge you to make a Cleopas resolution. And I really mean that. Pick somebody in your life that is a relationship that God would be willing to bless, which means if you're married, don't pick somebody at work that you're interested in, and, don't go there because that's dumb. What I'm saying is pick somebody in your life, a friendship. Again, it doesn't have to be a spouse, but pick somebody in your life that you're not necessarily romantically interested in, because that you don't want to, don't do that. Unless you're going to pick your spouse for this resolution, don't do that. But, pick somebody and commit to talk with them, to do life with them. I really feel like that's more important now than it ever has been at any point in my life, because with COVID shutdowns and the masks we're all supposed to be wearing and all this stuff, I mean, we are as far apart as we have ever been. And I feel like it's getting worse, not better. The vitriol and the venom and the anger that we all experience, we're not doing life together anymore. Even in this community, even here at Wayne Street, for those of you who are Wayne Street folks, and I'm not saying we hate each other or mad. I don't mean that at all. What I'm saying is we're so separated. And I want you to be very, very intentional about connecting with people and doing life with people, talking about Jesus with that person. And I don't mean trying to convert them. I mean having conversations about what Jesus is doing in your life, because it's exactly what Cleopas and his unnamed companion were doing. Is they were talking about Jesus, because when the stranger who was Jesus came along, And he's like, hey, guys, what you talking about? And they're like, how can you not know? We're talking about Jesus and what happened. So I hope that you'll find somebody in your life that you can make the Cleopas resolution about and make that be a real part of your 2021. Yes, resolve to lose weight and get organized and become Mr. Olympia. Of course, we're all making those resolutions and make them, whatever. I mean, you haven't done them the last how many years, but make them again. But definitely keep the Cleopas one. Invest in a relationship, friends. We are social creatures. God created us that way. And because of all the shutdowns and COVID and all this other stuff, and I'm not looking for it to get any better early in the year because of the administration change. But I think that we need to be able to just connect with each other and have conversations and walk meaningful moments, to have people we can call when we need help and whatever. So just don't take that for granted. Stay connected. Trina, I appreciate what you have done, Tim, to keep the church connected this past year. Hey, Bubby. Well, thank you. I feel like I haven't done enough because we feel so fragmented right now. But just know that this connection, I can't even begin to tell you. Thank you, Miriam. I can't even begin to tell you how important this is, because it's something that we have to stay together as best we can, and we're going to have to be intentional about it, because I can only get that fruit to hang so low, and I'm going to need you guys to take it for me. So, all right. So make your resolutions, all of them, and commit to working on one specific relationship. Try to build it up and do these things, because it's good for you. Let's be honest. And so very good. Well, I don't know that ever before in my entire life have I been so excited for New Year's Eve, simply because it means this doggone year is over. I mean, can I get a what up in the comments about 2020 and the end? Woohoo! Somebody give me a what up on that, because oh my gracious word, what a stupid year this has been. And on top of that, on top of everything, the obvious stuff that's happened, I also, I had the bowel obstruction, and I spent all that time in the hospital, and I nearly died. And then I finally started to come back, and I cut the end of my finger off with a hedge trimmer. Then I got attacked by a cat. I mean, it's just been a heck of a year. And so everybody give a what up to 2020 coming to an end before Pastor Tim kills himself. So, yeah. So I appreciate you all coming out. Thank you for still making these Wednesday live streams be something. We're going to continue doing this until, we aren't doing it anymore. But I appreciate you guys giving the time to come out and be a part of this. And we've had around 20 here all night. So very good. Well, friends, I think time has come for me to sign off. Again, I appreciate you making time to be here with me tonight. You honor me with your presence. I love you all very much. I hope you have a great and safe New Year's Eve. I hope we can take 2020 out on a good note tomorrow night and bring 2021 in, and make it be the first day of a great year. So appreciate you guys all being here. Everybody stay safe and be smart. And I hope you have a great New Year's Eve. And, oh yes, Dave and Amy. Yes, Jan, I agree. I wish we all could be together. That would be fun. Yeah. Happy New Year to you, Dave Jessen. Hi, Amy Hogshead. Thank you, Amy. Please give me a like on this video. Thumbs it up for me. That helps YouTube know we exist. So, yeah. Yes, happy 2021. Thanks, Miriam. And just know we're toying with the idea of a big back to church campaign for Easter this year. Hopefully by then the vaccine will be out far enough that we'll be able to start talking about coming back, and we're going to have a big community-wide return to church for Easter this year, and see if we can start getting our numbers back up, because we want to be, at least here at Wayne Street, we want to be in the 350s somewhere, because that's where we should be. So Happy New Year, Val McAllister, and Jan, Happy New Year's to you. All right, everybody, I hope you all have a great night. Go get some sleep. Scott, you enjoy that weight, and Jan, you guys enjoy that weighted blanket, because I'm about to go enjoy mine. So, all right, you guys have a great night, and go wash those hands. And thanks, Matt. Happy New Year to you, buddy.